Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way, find a way.
Listen up. It's the Poet Life Podcast. I'm Christoph Wrights, and I'm super excited about tonight. My partner, my co-host, J. Rod D, is not in the house tonight. As I've said a couple of times in the most recent episodes, he just had a newborn baby girl. So yes. So we're giving him some time off, or he's taking some time off. and we wish him well and his family. But listen, we have an awesome conversation on tonight. We have Miss Anita D. Miss Anita D, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I mean, our audience knows, we don't do huge introductions and things of that nature because, we're going to find out all of that information in our conversation. And so I'm really excited to get down to it. How was your day?
It was good. Woke up early, took a nice long walk.
Nice.
Shipped some books out.
Even nicer.
Right. Took care of some business, cleaned up around the house, and then just really got ready for this.
Okay. Now, all right, cool. So what's early? What time is the early walk?
Okay, so I don't like to go to sleep early. Like I'm usually up until like at least 2 a.m. Like it's rare that I go down before that. So I'll wake up, and depending on when I go to sleep, anywhere between like 8 and 10-ish. And then by the time I like shower and I just like, I don't move unless my body tells me it's okay to move.
Okay.
Like if I'm just not feeling it, if my energy isn't right, then I'll just sit for 5 more minutes until it feels right. I used to not do that, but I started listening to my body more.
Got it.
So I ended up leaving the house probably around like 11. It's just before noon. So I feel like I'm out of the house and I'm walking far, and because I just been having like a rough time these past week or so for whatever reason. I don't really know why, but the universe has just been heavy towards me. So I've just been trying to pace myself and get back into the groove of things like as easy as possible.
Okay. Now tell me about those books you're shipping out.
Yes. So I have a book. It's self-published.
Nice.
It's called In the Psych Ward Says. I have a poem on Button Poetry called In the Psych Ward Says. That's creeping up on 400,000 views. So it's like a little viral.
Right.
And so I have a book that has that poem in it as well. And it's pretty much a depiction of my experience as an involuntary patient in a psychiatric ward. And it's a collection of poems, journal entries, and stories that were written while I was actually in the hospital.
Okay. Got you. So you wrote that after you got out of the ward.
Some of the poems, most of the poems were written while I was actually in the hospital. That's what helped get me through each day, was just writing and journaling. So the journal entries and poems are actually from that when I was actually in the hospital. So you get like my very raw state of mind that I was in. There are a few more poems and stories that I wrote afterwards, and I compiled it. I was in the hospital last year in June, at the end of June 2019, and I finished the book in December. So I ended up putting everything together and like getting it together by December.
What's the title of it?
And the Psych Ward Says.
And that's the name of your poem too.
Yes. Yeah.
Genius.
Thanks.
Yes, that's was obviously that was strategic.
Yeah, I because the poem blew up right away.
Right.
And I figure like y'all all know this poem. So when you're like, oh, the poem has a book that goes with it. So that's why I was just like, oh, I just should name it that. And and it's like, it's everything that happened while I was inside the psych ward. So it was very fitting for the whole book. And I'm actually starting to work on I'm trying to do an audiobook and have record visuals by early next year. So
Nice.
I'm working on like a whole project to make it like more of a video project as well. And then I'm gonna add probably some more stories and just like more in-depth stuff in the audiobook.
That's how you do it. I wish most poets or more poets would get more meat off the bone when it comes to poems. You know what I mean? And where it's not just a poem, you take it to an open mic or get booked for, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Like, realize that you can do so much more with that one poem. I don't like saying interview. We had a conversation with Carson. Can't remember his last name. He's going to kill me. But one of our guests, one of his poems, him and his partner, they wrote a poem and they were a duo, and they ate off one poem for like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, they were doing workshops off of it, obviously performing it. But what they do is when they come up with a concept of a poem and they finish writing it, they then pitch it to different organizations based off of the theme or the topic of that poem, right? So if, say for instance, it is about, I don't know, suicide, I don't know, right? And they would look up organizations that advocate for suicide
prevention,
survivors. I don't know.
Yeah.
Survivors. And they say, hey, I see that you have, they'll do the research, they'll do their due diligence and say, I see that you all have an event coming up or a conference coming up. Would this suit you all's event? And they'll pull organizations, they'll pull events and things of that nature. They'll basically create bookings for themselves. So they'll play offense. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Like you're doing here, you say, okay, all right, so this thing is going to go viral. Okay, cool. So let's do the book, name it the same thing, because now they know it. They'll know the name of the book as well. So if more poets thought like that, they'd eat more. You know what I mean?
You know what's crazy is, so I created the book because Button was having a chapbook contest. And I was like, I'm going to submit to Button and just see what happens, because they recorded my poem. And that's really another reason why I named it that, because I was like, they know my poem got, I think it was like this top 4 best poems of Button, like for the year. So I'm like, I know they know my poem. So that'll get their attention and hopefully it'll do something. I didn't win. I didn't even make it to the final round or anything, but it made me write the book. And then January hit, and I was driving Uber, but I didn't have a car anymore. And so I was trying to get a new car, but my mom had come into town for the holidays. And so like a lot of money that I had saved up had to go out to like get rental cars and get her around. And so I was in a really tough spot. And had it not been for this book, I wouldn't have eaten for the first 3 months of the year.
Wow.
Like the book fed me and paid bills and took care of me for the first 2-3 months of the year by itself. So
wow.
It's yeah. And I was just kind of betting on it and hoping, because I was like, I literally don't have anything else. Poetry now is my only job since I don't have a car to drive Uber with. And I gave up a job experience and back in like November, because my poem, I started like recording it more and performing it, and I was getting more bookings. So I was like, I can't work a regular 9 to 5 and then also go on tour and do all these bookings and just like leave town at will. So I was like, if poetry is going to be my job, I have to really make it my job, and I need to be able to eat off of it. So I'm grateful that it started working, and it's still like, I know I don't have book sales. Like it's not even available online. It's self-published. I have copies myself that I order and I ship them out. But I've touched every single page of every single book. So I think that's also special.
Most definitely. Yeah. And do you sign them as well?
Yeah, I always write like a little personal message.
Nice.
The first batch of books that I put out, the first maybe like 100 or two, I actually wrote like little cards, and like everybody had like their own message on top of like signing the inside. But now I still sign every single one and write like, you'll get a personalized message like to your name. It's not going to be like a fancy poem or anything, but I'm thanking you personally for supporting me in this story.
That's so awesome. Like seriously, that's see, and that's what it takes, man. Like sometimes it takes a push, like not having a job and not being able to work for whatever reason to make you go the next step, or go far and beyond, right? Because most time when you're comfortable, you're not gonna move. If you got that steady check coming every week, every 2 weeks, like I might sell a book or two. All right, I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes it's important if you can't I guess sometimes self-motivate. And even when you can, sometimes you just like, life is here. So it's just but I really appreciate the angles that you're taking when it comes to, because listen, we've been talking for like 10 minutes and we're talking about one poem that led to a book and something that fed you for the first quarter of the year. You see what I'm saying? Like, so that's so if you go back into your archive and create services out of your poems, you know what I'm saying? Like that. And I'm sure you have some more introspective poems that link to other crises or pain points for people, or just uplifting people as well, right? And so if you did your due diligence, say, all right, I got this one, okay, this one can be a workshop for sure. You know what I mean? This one really could help a lot of people for whatever this topic is, When did you start writing?
I first started writing, I was 15 in 10th grade, so 16 years ago almost. It was my 10th grade English teacher. She introduced the whole class to Shakespeare, and it was Sonnet 116. And it's basically his interpretation of love and how strong it is and how strong it truly is and how it's unbreakable. Real love is unbreakable and it lasts forever. And that poem made me fall in love with love and poetry. Wow. Like just the language he used and the romance behind it and all of it. So we had homework assignments, and so to write poems, and we had to write sonnets and different things and haikus and whatnot. So that's how I got initially started writing. And then I ended up liking what I was turning in for homework. So I bought a journal and I would write the poetry in my little journal, and then I would write it and pass it in for class. And so I was just writing for high school. And when I got into college, there was an open mic at the Black Student Union. They were hosting open mic, and I was just there just to watch. And then a couple of my friends knew I wrote poetry, and they just peer pressured me and signed me up. And so I went up and I read 3 very short poems, and then scurried off a stage, and everybody was like, that was so good. And it just felt cool to have that little being recognized a little bit. So I kept going back and performing, and most of my friends at the time were writers or rappers. So I wasn't around any poets. I was around rappers. So everything was rhyming. Everything was
lyrics.
To a really, yeah. And so, but I was still calling it poetry. But I had all these rappers critiquing me and saying that my flow needs to be better and my rhyming could be better and the metaphors and all of this stuff. And they would really like, I would post videos on Facebook and they would comment and be like, nah, this flow's trash. You need to work on it. Like
in the comments.
Like, yes. Like, and these are my friends. Like, we still friends to this day, but it didn't discourage me. Like, they knew me well enough that it just like made me want to shut them up and made me want them to have the complete opposite reaction. And so I kept performing just at open mics. I think I did one college show while I was back home. I'm from Massachusetts, so I went to Framingham State College, and I think I did one show in Boston at Simmons, and that was like pretty much it. And I did like a couple open mics around Boston. When I moved to San Diego in 2013, I just moved there because I wanted to get out of the hood. I live in Brockton, Massachusetts, and everybody is either gets pregnant or goes to jail or gets stuck and just settles there. And I didn't want to do that, so I just left. And I didn't know about the San Diego poetry scene. I had no idea who Rudy Francisco was. I know that I got an invite to go to an open mic called Elevated, and it was their 8th year anniversary, and Shihan was the feature. And when I was in high school, like when I started writing, one of my friends showed me Shihan's poem, Type Love, the I want to love like me, thinking of you, thinking of me, thinking of you type love.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, I don't know how I want to do whatever he's doing and be on stage and do poems. And so when they were like, oh, Shihan's the feature, I'm geeking out. And right. I remember going there and watching him. And when I went in, Rudy Francisco was at the door with the clipboard. I thought he was a doorman. I didn't know who he was. And so he asked if I wanted to sign up, and I was like, sure. And then I did, and then he got on stage and did a poem. And I was like, who is this person? And literally right. Every single person that got on stage, I was just in awe. And it was amazing. And then the end of the night, Rudy invited me to the San Diego Slam the following Monday. And I went and I did horribly because I didn't know what a slam was. I thought it was an open mic that was just the name of the open mic. Like, I thought it was just called that. So I placed like 11th out of 12 poets. And then I just started going to open mics every single week after that. I like stepped away from slam because I felt like I'm not good enough to do what these people do, but I want to do what they do. And so I went to open mics once, twice, 3 times a week if I could. I remember I would just move to California, so I had no car or anything. If my cousins couldn't drop me off, I was taking the bus. And I remember paying with quarters, nickels, and dimes a couple times just to get into the open mic and the slam, just to watch and to soak it in. And right. In fall 2015, so like 2 years later, I was like, I feel like I've been working hard enough. And so I went and I was like, I'm gonna go out for the slam team. And I ended up making it that year, and it's been like a domino effect ever since then. I feel like you only asked me one question, and I went like on a whole rant.
That's how we flow. That's how we go. Who was on that team?
So Rudy Francisco was the coach. Myself, Natasha Hooper, Amin Ra, and Nicole Lawson. So Cole Lawson, actually, she only slammed for 1 year, and now she is like a life coach. She's a chef. She's all of these things. She still writes and does poetry. She actually has a book for sale as well, but she's not in the slam as much. So folks may not know her name, but y'all should. She's dope.
Right. Nicole Lawson.
Yeah.
If you're still in communication with her?
Yes, absolutely.
Make that connection. I would love to have a conversation with her if she's interested. Yeah. Definitely. All right. So all right, cool. Where are you now? Where in the world are you?
So I live in San Diego. I'm located in San Diego, or based in San Diego, but right now I'm in Hawaii.
Okay. Got you.
Yes.
Got you. What brought you to Hawaii?
My boyfriend in quarantine.
Okay. Cool.
So that's
Quarantine.
pretty much it. Yeah. I can't,
Got
I can't work. I can't go do shows. I can't perform. I can't really hang out with friends like that. And so I might as well be here for quarantine until I can.
Yeah. Why not be in Hawaii?
Right.
Now, let me ask you, how has the virtual world treated you and your career, your poetry career?
So at first it was devastating
Yeah.
because I was supposed to be touring all year. I was actually on an
Mm.
airplane on my way to San Antonio when they made the announcement that uh, gatherings have to be closed down to 10. And so a lot of venues closed and restaurants closed. That's when everything shut down. And I was mid-flight on my way to Texas to tour. And I was supposed to do like a 4-city tour. And it sucked. So
Wow.
I actually featured in the very first virtual open mic before we really knew virtual open mics were going to be a thing.
Mm.
So in San Antonio, they set up in the backyard camera, and there was, I think, 8 of us in the backyard, so we were under the limit. And so, a few poets got up on the mic and did a poem, and we were live on Facebook and Instagram. And then I went up and performed, and there were a lot of June bugs. I don't like bugs in general, but we're fighting June bugs in the backyard. And then after that, I had to fly back to California because my other shows got canceled. And so it really hit me hard at first, but it's been like a little blessing in disguise. I haven't been able to make as much money as I would had I been able to, tour and travel like I was supposed to. But I have been able to feature on lots of different open mics and meet a lot of people from all over the world that I wouldn't have met otherwise. I was actually able to feature in the UK twice, and
Nice.
that was huge for me. And now they want to, like, eventually when the world opens up, they do want to bring me out there. So that's like an international gig that I had waiting for me in the future that I may have never had it not been for quarantine and this like new age of virtual open mics.
Yes.
It's also been triggering because there are folks that I don't believe to be safe that have endangered me that are still floating around all these virtual open mics, because what I think what this allowed for is it allowed this blessing of so many poets to meet each other and interact, and artists in general, right? And on the other hand, it allowed any and everyone to do anything. There are multiple open mics that exist where the hosts or you're not an organizer. If you get on Instagram and you're saying, hey, sign up for my open mic, you're just a person with internet, right? And a phone. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these people have taken advantage of this new wave. And I think it's oversaturated. I think there are way too many open mics that exist for no reason, that their hosts are either dangerous or irresponsible or abusers. And so it's been triggering seeing certain people and names come into play that nobody even knew who they was before. But because of the internet and all it is, like, it's real easy to pretend that you're something that you're not. Nobody has to actually be who they are. And that's scary. Like, I can be whoever I want from behind the screen. And you don't know what's really going on once I'm off the screen. And I think that's really scary, is that like all of these new hosts have arrived and all these new, not even venues, because they're cell phones. Like, I feel like if you don't have an actual venue to host an event in, you shouldn't be a host of an event, unless it's like a podcast or a radio show or something like that. But I have lots of opinions on that. It's been good and bad. I think it's been a blessing and a burden at the same time.
Yeah, good old internet. That is that is its name, the good and the bad, and everything that comes with it. So you're like somewhat on a mission to create safe spaces
Yes.
in our poetry community. What are some of the things that you've been able to, I guess, drum up to, you know, assist in that way?
So in February this year, while I was on tour, I was assaulted. It was actually in Hawaii, which is the reason a lot of people don't know that I'm in Hawaii. I was on tour in Hawaii. My current boyfriend actually met him during that trip. He hasn't been associated with the person that hurt me since it happened. But so I was out here on tour. You know, I got super excited because after the Psych Ward Says went viral, lots of people reached out to me to book me. And I woke up to an email asking me to feature in Hawaii. So I'm excited. I come out and the host actually, like, he used, friends of mine to say that pretend that he has like a better relationship than he does to make me more comfortable in going and feeling safe staying at his place, because other friends of mine have traveled and stayed there and there was no problem. But I was assaulted. And after I got back to the mainland, I told my story and I posted it on Instagram and Facebook. And inevitably, I ended up ending his entire organization. I found out that he had assaulted multiple people in the community, in the community in Hawaii. And so I contacted the owner of the venue that he was using, and I got their contract ended and their entire organization went down. And I spread a lot of awareness and I started a lot of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But, I also learned a lot of stories. A lot of women reached out to me and let me know their stories of when similar things happened to them and they either tried to tell their story and they weren't listened to, or they were afraid to tell their story because they were afraid they wouldn't be heard, or that nobody would believe them because the person that did it has like this higher status in the community, whether it be nationally or locally. And so all of that was very heartbreaking. And I try every chance I get to remind folks that we need to call out abusers and hold them accountable, whether they are our peers, our best friends, our coaches, our siblings, and our family. Like, it doesn't matter. I think it's also we also need to call out people that enable them and help them. Because with my particular situation, I posted a statement saying that what happened. And in response, this man's wife and close friend wrote a letter for him, basically saying that I was lying and that I was a drunk and that I was a slut and that I don't know what I'm talking about, and try to embarrass me. And when I said that there are like folks that are going around the open mics and hosting that are involved with the people that hurt me, they're still best friends with the people that wrote the letter for the man that assaulted me. And they think that's okay, that they're still great friends with, and they don't see that what's wrong with that. And it's like the fact that I just think that people need to believe women more often and stop questioning them and stop going back to the abuser to be like, oh, well, what happened? What really happened? Well, what's your side of things? Because 99% of the time, women aren't lying about this stuff. Like, I want to say 100% of the time, but I also am not stupid. I know that there are very, very, very rare occasions where folks embellish and they lie, but this is not one of those times. And I think folks need to I try to advocate for believing women more. There isn't an exact solution that I have. I've talked to folks about, like, I don't know how to do it, but if there was this like larger, almost board that handled this type of things, like from people from all over the country, right? Not just like in one area, that we can vote for, or not necessarily vote for, but just, I don't really know how to do it. But I think there needs to be people that everybody feels safe with, that doesn't have a question mark over their head, that is reliable, that is honest, that is trustworthy, that's safe, that can hold others accountable and stop them from joining larger because we can't stop people from doing, from going out and performing and hosting or whatever, but we can prevent them from being parts of larger organizations where we know there will be other people there and larger groups, and we can do as much as we can to protect them, I think. And if we could create some sort of I don't know, committee or board, that I know in San Diego there is a safe space committee. I'm not a part of it, but a few friends of mine are. So that is something that does exist. Honestly, I didn't even know it existed until I was told about it one day, and I think it was curated like while I was back home living in Boston. But I know there is one in San Diego, and if we hear about something, which it's happened, and we've learned about certain situations, and we go about it, and we put them in touch with the Safe Space Committee, and they handle things. And if more things like that could happen, and we could have that on a larger scale, I think it would help. I don't think there's like 100% solution to it.
Sure.
But I think that we need to do it. I think people need to be doing everything we can to protect everybody in our community, especially women, especially Black women.
Sure. Yeah, no, I know we speak a lot about building the poetry industry, but this is where uplifting the poetry community comes in, and I've recognized a lot of the poets in the community reach out and in support of you. I definitely saw what was happening. I'm all the way in DC, and so the internet makes the world super small. And coincidentally, well, not coincidentally, because when I saw that you were going to Hawaii, when I saw that you were booked to go to Hawaii, I reached out to you. I was like, hey, what's the connect? What's the word? What's the connect? And then you gave me the connect, and because I was in the process of booking and planning our Fighting Cancer with Poetry tour, international tour, right?
I remember that.
And that, just based off of your recommendation, I made that connect, and that was going to be one of our stops. And then I was like, whoa. And it was like, I don't know, days later or a week later or something like that, this came out, and I was like, guess I won't be going to Hawaii. But and I was just like, just so hurt to know that you had to go through that, and so you reached out to an organization in Hawaii, a poetry organization in Hawaii. Yes. What was the name of that organization?
To receive the booking, or afterwards?
No, afterwards, to get you out of that situation.
So I actually reached out to my coach. And I called Rudy Francisco, because I literally didn't know who else to call, and I didn't know if he could help me, but I knew that he knows a lot of people. And so he actually called another poet that contacted High Poet Society, which I remember going to nationals back in 2016 and seeing Hawaii Slam team like on the roster. And so when I got booked for the Hawaii Slam, I was left under the impression that that's the slam that I was going to feature at.
I see.
And it wasn't until I literally got to Hawaii that he was like, oh no, we're not even a year old yet. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I've seen Hawaii Slam. And he's like, oh no, we're not a part of that organization. And he was like talking trash about them, kind of. And so I thought that it was High Poet Society that I was going to go feature with. And I was super excited, because I know they're kind of like, they've been around for decades, and so they're kind of legendary in like the slam world. And but they or who helped me out. And it was really based off of just like who we know and the love that we have. And like, Rudy's a genuine man. You know, the poet he reached out to is a genuine person, and the poet she reached out to help me, they're all genuine people. And she stayed during her visits to Hawaii. And so I reached out to them. And so, yeah, if you do want to do a trip to Hawaii, I would suggest High Poet Society are the people to connect with, because those are the only safe, in my opinion, poets and community in Hawaii, because there's a few others that is still circulating, but they're all still associated with the other people. So,
got it. Yeah, I think that is a very important conversation. I don't think it's had enough in a lot of industries, just period. You know, that conversation is not you know, a popular conversation, you know, and a lot of times it is hush hush, pushed under the rug, and until something tragic happens.
right.
And even then, they'll still try to push it under the rug. And I appreciate your advocacy, you know, and just you sticking to it, because again, you could have just went through it, said what you said, and that was it. But I definitely commend you for continuing and spreading that information and starting those conversations, because it is important. And if you can help someone today or in the future, then you've done your job.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Thank you.
That I think that's definitely worth researching. You know, what can the poetry community do to create safe spaces around the country and beyond in the poetry community? So, you know, I definitely and I hope someone that's listening or watching or even reading, because we now have a third dimension to the podcast, a blog.
Dope.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we just launched that like 2 days ago. So we're super excited about it. So you can not only watch on YouTube and listen on anywhere you watch a podcast. Anywhere you listen to a podcast. You can also go to our website, thepoetlife.com, and our new blog manager takes her personality and kind of transforms it into a blog. So it's not a transcription of the blog, you know, word for word. It's an adaptation of what's going on each episode. So we're really excited about it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. We figured, you know, that would help us expand, but also create organic SEO, you know, search engine optimization, you know, because of the keywords and, you know, all of that. And so, but at the same time, some people would rather read than watch or listen, you know? Yeah. So it's kind of want to just touch all bases, but again, I think, when someone is watching, listening, or reading, then they can also, at the very least, be aware. You know, so solution wise, right? You were booked. What are what is something that, especially a woman, can do to make sure that they stayed safe when flying out to go perform, right? Like in your instance, you went alone. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you know anybody in Hawaii at the time?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Gotcha.
Go ahead.
In hindsight, did you find out that you knew somebody in Hawaii, or no, you just didn't know anybody in Hawaii?
In hindsight, I did have one friend that I knew from San Diego that had moved out there, but
Gotcha.
I high key forgot that she lived there.
It happens.
and that she was, and there's also like multiple islands, so I didn't know
Yeah.
that she was on this island. And then by the time I had realized it, I didn't want to keep talking about it and telling people what happened at the time. And so I had found like a new place to stay and ended up catching up with her like the last couple days that I was there. So it was good to see her. But
Sure.
yeah, had I known that she was there, she probably would have came and picked me up that first day, and it would have been different.
Or you even probably would have stayed with her had you known.
Yeah. And that was the other thing is, unbeknownst to me, there was another space for me to stay at a woman's house who is a mother of 2 young girls and had a whole guest room for me.
Wow.
There were multiple poets that offered, and she knew I was coming and offered, and he was like, no, she's all set. She said she's okay with staying here. And I didn't even know that was available. So that just adds to it. And had I known, yes, I would have taken that. Because what he did is he left me in the impression, he said he has a 2-bedroom apartment. It's very large. I'll have my own space, my own room. And I went in there under the impression that I would have a door to close in privacy, at least. And that was not the case. When we got there, there was a 2-bedroom apartment, but the second bedroom was his daughter's room. And then the other bedroom was his. So he said, you can stay in my room or you can stay in the living room on the air mattress. And I was like, I'll take the living room on the air mattress. The very first night, like we went out, had drinks. He got me drunk. And then he still had a couple friends over in the living room talking. I wanted to go to sleep. So I was like, is it okay if I sleep in a room tonight and you sleep in the living room on the air mattress? And he said, yeah, that's fine. And then I woke up to being cuddled the next morning and getting kissed on the forehead. Like he never slept on the air mattress. He just crawled into bed with me after I was passed out. So I would have changed a lot of things. Since then, I have traveled a couple times, and I have noticed that I have really, really bad anxiety while traveling and going to do shows and meeting new people. I don't really realize it until I'm there. But I think like 2 weeks after I got back from Hawaii in February, I had to go to March. I got to go to Dallas in March for the Women of the World Poetry Slam. And I could have gotten a hotel at the host hotel where all the other poets were and been like neighbors with other poets. Instead, I got a hotel 2 blocks away. I got a queen suite 2 blocks away in a hotel where nobody else that I knew was staying at, because I wanted to be as far away from everyone as possible. And so I remember every time I went in the room, I locked both the locks and I put like the little flap over. And then when I went to sleep, I locked that door, I closed that door and locked it. And it's just been hard trying to transition. But I think that advice for women, especially when the world opens back up and going on tour, in your contract, or whether you have a contract or not, in the agreement, have a hotel be a part of the payment. Like, oh yes, oh, you want to fly me out there? You want me to come out there? You need to book me a hotel. Da 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 da. And you're the only one that has access to that hotel. And at least, at the very least, like you have someplace safe to go at the end of the night, and you don't have to rely. And also, everybody has their own standards, I guess. But now, like the last time I got flown out, I asked for a hotel and a rental car. And I wanted to be able to get myself around, and I wanted to be able to leave when I wanted to leave, and I wanted to be able to sleep by myself with no worries or concern.
Those are good steps.
I think that's something, is just recognizing where you're going, also researching the host and the venue more, because that's something I was so excited to have this opportunity. Like, I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts. I'm from the hood. I didn't even know the Hollywood sign was really, really there in the mountains until I got to LA and I saw it. Like, so to imagine me flying to Hawaii to do poetry, like that's not something I dreamt of in my wildest dreams. So I was just so ecstatic from the opportunity, I didn't take the time to research this person and ask questions like I should have.
Right.
And I think I also wasn't taught to me to do that though. Like nobody ever told me I should do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
You brought up contracts and agreements. I would take it a step further, and I mean, just on a business level, you know, as a poet, as an artist, I would, even if the booker doesn't have a contract for you to sign, I would create my own contracts. You can Google and you know and download a Word document that you can manipulate and change out the names and the all of that, and always have contracts, because in legal situations, you know, you hope and wish, you know, you don't have to go that route, but you'll be safe in that regard. So I would say always have a contract, have them sign it. If they have their own, obviously have somebody else look at it after you've looked at it as well. But that's why I asked if you, in hindsight, knew someone where you were going. So for those listening, watching, reading, I do suggest that if you're going to another place, find out who you know in that place. If it's a college friend, church friend, you know, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm coming to your town, just letting you know. Would love for you also to come to the event. You know what I mean? And this is where I'm staying, the whole nine, you know, and have that emergency call if you need it. Hopefully you won't, but just taking those precautions, right? Just even if
it's terrible that we even have. I'm sorry, I think it's terrible that we even have to take these precautions and think about all of these things if in the event that we could be assaulted or hurt in some way. And it's like it's almost like discouraging. Like I love poetry, I love performing, I love touring, but that what happened to me was very discouraging, and it was very scary. And I wonder, like, had this quarantine not happened and I didn't have this time to actually sit and process, because I'd never processed it. Like I got back from Hawaii, went to Dallas, got back from Dallas, was in Cali for a week, was competing in Cali, went right back to Texas, and then quarantine. So I was just like boom, 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 boom. And I never took time to process and heal. And I wonder like how much it would have affected me had I just continued to travel, and if I would have been triggered and how I would have reacted in those moments, and all of that. And I'm like, maybe, I mean, everything happens for a reason. So I'm like this.
That's a step as well. If it ever happens, is to take a break. You know, and I know that's hard to do when this is what you do, right? This is your full time. It's like taking off of work, you know, taking paid time off. Well, as an artist, it's what is it? LWAP. What's the L? Leave without pay.
Oh,
you know? Yeah, you know, so I completely understand that. But even if it's like a day or two or even a week, just to kind of process things and have a conversation with a loved one, and kind of processing the whole situation. Yeah, for sure. This is good. And I think it's very necessary. And I've already thought of the title of this podcast, Creating Safe Spaces in the Poetry Community.
Yes.
Yeah. It's we have to dig deep, you know. And again, we talk a lot about building the poetry industry because that's necessary too, in order for more poets to do what you do, ship out books and go on tour and things of that nature. But if you're not safe, what is all of that worth?
Right.
You know? Yeah. Yeah. Especially as a woman. Um, uh, in my lack of maturity days, I would have said as a female, but I've learned that that is not the word to use. Uh, uh,
Thank you.
yeah. So, and I have 3 daughters and a wife. So, indeed. So I'm
Constant
definitely
reminder.
not going to call my daughters females. Yeah. So, and that's a part of the conversation too, being respectful and being knowledgeable as it relates to, how to represent or, and or, just to respect women. So I'm learning, and I think we're in the time where women are speaking up,
Mm-hmm.
and but we need to be in the time where men listen.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Yeah, because
yeah,
it's so exhausting
sure.
to continuously have to really trigger yourself and re-traumatize yourself and to explain to what happened to you and what the difference you want to make or whatever it is, and the emotional labor that goes into it for women, and to only have that fall on deaf ears like time and time again, especially when it's folks that we consider to be like close friends and family, and they're not listening. It's so hurtful and discouraging, and that's a big reason why I haven't been doing open mics or slams in the last couple months, is because of that.
Mm,
And it's too much.
mm,
I still get paid for shit. Like I'll get asked and invited every once in a while to do stuff, or if it's for money and I really want to do it, I'll do it. Or if it's a feature, I'll do it. But just voluntarily going and enjoying it isn't happening
mm.
because I can't bring myself to do it right now.
Let me ask you: have you thought about teaching and mentoring virtually?
Yes. I actually have some friends that created a virtual online school
Hmm.
called Cake Time Club.
Nice.
And so they're both my friends are in San Diego, and they created it. They're both educators, elementary students, and it's for all ages. Anybody can sign up. I am
Mhm.
currently trying to put together a curriculum for elementary school and middle school, and more of like a performance curriculum for high schoolers that want to do spoken word and slam poetry. It's a way for students to take classes during this virtual time that regular school would have never offered them. And they
Yes.
can build skills that, they may not even know that they have.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. We have Poet Life University here, and we link up with a lot of organizations, schools, and universities around the country. And I usually allow those organizations and schools and companies to reach out to us and say, hey, this is our theme, this is our topic. Do you have someone that can speak to that? But we're on a mission to be more proactive and be on the offense, to where we, like say for instance, you could speak to creating safe spaces, but also, with that. So would it be in the realm of mental health,
Mhm.
what is it? Mental health therapy, or art
mental
therapy?
mental
Was
health
it?
aware. Well, yeah, art therapy. I think
Yeah.
that's a good term for it.
Well, mental health awareness, art therapy,
Hmm.
in those lanes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we came together and kind of brainstorm some workshop topics and kind of pitch those to organizations and things of that nature, I would love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to.
I think that would go over really well. And that would keep the conversation going.
Yes. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
I don't have solutions, but
Yeah,
I know I'm really good at starting conversations, and I think that's how you get to solutions. It
exactly.
inevitably is. It has to start with a conversation. Usually the most difficult conversations, the most uncomfortable conversations to have lead to change. And I
Yeah,
really love starting uncomfortable conversations.
indeed.
It's a joy that I have.
Yeah. No, it's necessary because a lot of times it's so awkward. It's like, all right, where do we start?
Mhm.
And if you're a person that's really good at starting the conversation, then they're like, oh, all right, my guard's down. Because most people are not conversation starters. You know what I mean? Like if you see someone that you like, you're interested in them, and you're not a conversation starter, and you're just
Yeah.
hoping that they talk to you, or if they don't, it's just not going to happen. It wasn't meant to be.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, I think that would be great, and I would love to work with you in that regard. Um, I'm really excited about this episode coming out because really this has taken us to another plateau, if you will. We've been talking entrepreneurship and all of that, and
Yeah.
uh, I like where this has gone, and I like where I believe it will go, and it will open up for other conversations that are similar on this podcast. And because at first I was like, I don't know, you know, uh,
I
you
know
know,
that uncomfortable feeling because
yes, yeah,
yeah.
but you're a conversation starter. You got it going, and I said this is definitely needed. So let's go. So let's do it. So,
Yeah.
Anita, I'm really excited about what you have going on, and I really believe that you would do really well in the realm of education and mentorship.
Thank you. Thank
Indeed,
you. I am
yeah,
I am trying to get into that more, and I think it's right now just more or less of like me becoming like stable within myself, like emotionally and mentally, and then also like having just like the self-confidence, because I question myself a lot, like a lot of people do, most people do.
indeed.
um, so I think just getting over that. Javon Johnson told me that one of the problems is that I'm afraid of my own success, and
Yeah,
once I get out of my way, I'll be fine. So I'm
that's
still
most
trying to get
people.
out of my way.
I this is me doing this podcast is me getting out of my own way.
Mm.
Season one was I had two hosts, and then life happened, and the other host couldn't do it, and we took a pause, and just out of nowhere, God gave me enough confidence to do it because
Mm.
I'm behind the scenes. I'm a behind the scenes guy. Not one to want to be in front of the camera, want to be on stage. Just that's just not me, And hey, here we are. So no, yeah, take time to heal and recompose and all that good stuff. And time will definitely tell when things need to happen. So we'll reconnect. We always converse, whether it's short or long on Facebook Messenger. So um, uh, whoever's watching, listening, or reading, you'll see more of the Poet Life and Miss Anita D. So just anticipate. Yes, most definitely. If you could say anything to anybody before we leave out, what would you say?
I don't have a message for one person in particular, but I love all of you. I hope that everyone is practicing loving themselves, even on the most difficult days. Practice your hardest, and everything happens for a reason. I know everybody's going through it right now, but we just gotta. I feel like we just gotta hold our breath for like a little while longer, and everything's gonna be good. So I love everybody. I hope everybody is continuing to wash their hands and social distance and stay safe and healthy, both physically and mentally.
Where can folks find you?
On Instagram at Anita D Poetry. I also have a website at www.anitadpoetry.com. So that has links to all of my poetry videos up on YouTube. It also has a link where you can contact me if you want to get a copy of my book and the Psych Word Says. And soon it'll have other things when I finish up the projects I'm working on.
Awesome. When you do, let us know. Everybody, it's the Poet Life Podcast. Again, I'm Christoph Wrights. My co-host is J. Rod D. Check us out at the website, thepoetlife.com. Everywhere on social media, The Poet Life. We're just excited about this new direction, this I won't say lane, but this new form of confidence that we have to talk about hard conversations. And so everybody thank Miss Anita D, because I don't know if I would have initiated it. So
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate you. And it's Friday night. Just make sure you have a good weekend. Spend some time with yourself. And it's COVID, man.
It's COVID, man.
It's COVID, man. Let's hustle down. Let's hustle down and get some work done. You know what I mean? Like let's write some more books. Let's sell some more books. Let's use this internet for good, even though some people like to use it for bad.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
I feel that.
Most
Thank
definitely.
you so much for having me on here.
No,
I can't wait to learn more in the future. I'm super excited.
Most definitely. I think this will go a long way. So it's the Poet Life Podcast. Everybody have a good night. Mr. Anita D, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. We're out. Awesome. That was good. That was great.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah. It went by fast, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I see like the time on the corner of my computer, and I swear to God, it just said like 30 minutes, like a few minutes ago, and I looked up again and it said 50 something. I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, no, I this conversation and direction is very necessary, like I said, and I think it will help a lot of people. And just like I said, people need to eat more off of their poems. I'm talking to myself. We need to eat more off of our episodes and turn our episodes into workshops. You see what I'm saying? So now this isn't a poem, but this is an hour-long episode to where I can take the episode and pitch it to, right? So this is
right. And like the whole topic of conversation.
Yeah. Yes. And so they can watch it and say, yeah, I can see that. So this is a product. This is an example. You have a book on it, related to it, I mean, if poets would just get that and understand that their poems are tools, products, marketing strategies, like it can do so much for them if they just look at it more than just a poem.
Right.
So look out for my call. Or my Facebook message. And because I see myself, shooting this link out once it's out, to universities and organizations, and saying, hey, let's spark this conversation up. And I have the perfect person to facilitate it.
And this topic of like the creating safe spaces in like our poetry community really applies to every single space, like every single space you can think of.
Not just poetry.
Yeah, especially colleges and universities. Like,
yes.
I was assaulted in college my freshman year.
Wow.
So yeah.
Man, I didn't know that. And so now this doubled down on your anxiety.
Yeah.
Man. I have 3 daughters, 5 and under, and I try to keep my mind in this age, where they are, but I can't but help but think down the line,
of course.
But I have to like protect my mind, because I'm like, yeah, it's tough, because when it comes to boys and all of that, I already have enough on my mind right now, and I don't want to. I try not to think that far down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're still so young. Like, I mean, I'm not a mom. I can't really give advice.
Yeah.
But I would just say, like, just enjoy this time as much as possible. I'm sure you already know that. Like, and I have nieces and nephews, and I've seen how quickly they're growing up. So I can only imagine how it feels if it's like your own child. And thinking about all of that. And, you're a great guy. You're an amazing man. You're going to do everything you can do to protect them no matter what. But also understand the world is the way the world is. And reality of it is you can't protect them from every single thing. Not saying that you know what I'm saying? So, but I'm sure, I know that you're going to do everything in your power. So,
that's why I thought of introducing steps that women can take when traveling, or when, in those instances, so they can learn from your experience, and they can take those necessary steps and call somebody saying, hey, I'm coming to Atlanta. How close is it to where you are? And if it isn't close, who do you know that you trust that I can then call? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's unfortunate you got to do all of that, but life is life.
Yeah, it's very sad that those precautions have to be taken. At the same time, it's like, this is going to sound so messed up, but I'm like, you'd rather take those precautions than not and have something happen to you. And it's like, it's just sad that that's like the world that we're in. And it's discouraging.
Yeah. My motto in life is, it is what it is. It just is, man. Like, and because if you don't, you're going to act like nothing can happen to you.
Yeah. And I feel like that was almost this, not that nothing could happen to me, but this isn't going to happen to me right now. I didn't even think that it was like a possibility of that happening. So it wasn't even a thought or a concern. And it was frustrating because there was a couple people, they're not like necessarily friends. Like, there was a girl that I was dating before around that time. And when I told her what happened, she was like, see, why'd you go out there on your own? You shouldn't have gone out. Why'd you do that? Why would you even go there by yourself? As if like I chose to put myself in that danger. And so it's hard to like balance it, I guess, because really depending on how you word it, it could like the world is so sensitive now. And so like, she could have genuinely meant like, you should have taken those precautions because of things that she's experienced. And it's like, people are terrible and they can do all these things. And, you should have taken those precautions. But at the same time, it's like my feelings were like, I shouldn't have to take those precautions. Like, I'm getting flown out to do a poem. Like, I shouldn't have to think of all of these things to protect myself. But this is the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I should have.
Indeed.
It's not my fault. Like, none of it's my fault. And I know that, and I'm aware of that. But, you know, I've obviously changed how I travel now. And I won't, like, I don't allow myself to stay at anybody's place anymore.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. Man, get some rest, man. Enjoy your weekend. It's the weekend, you know.
I will. You too. Thank you again for this. I'm really, really excited for this episode to come out.
Me too.
I hope that it just sparks some conversations, and I'm just excited to continue to work with you in the future.
Most definitely. Did you get a chance to fill out that form, that link in the email at the bottom?
I thought I did. I'll double check. I was like, maybe I didn't.
I think you did. All right. Yeah, okay. You did it a while back, I think.
Okay, then I may have. Check. If I didn't, just let me know, and then I'll fill it out.
It has the upload feature for your photo, so I can create the graphic for this episode. But I was just in that folder, and I believe I saw you in there. But if not, I'll definitely message you.
Okay, bet. All right. Yeah, just let me know, and I'll send it to you. Thank you.
All right.
Introducing the Poet Life Podcast. Go check it out today on your favorite platforms, including iTunes, Apple Music, and the website, thepoetlife.com.
Find a way.